Hello, everybody. Excuse me, and welcome to episode 3 of Automate That, the ActiveCampaign Automation Recipe Show. We are very, very excited to have you with us again for this next episode. As always,
I'm
Ernie,
Cody,
and we are your hosts. We like to keep it consistent here. We like to match. We both got the logo. We've got the hats, the Patagonia. I'd grow a beard if I could, but I can't. So maybe we'll leave that for next week. Just to kick things off here, we wanted to drop a little poll and see where everybody is calling in from today. Cody, I don't know if you have a poll in your hand, but if you do, feel free to drop it.
Boop.
And if you have the slides for today's session, you can feel free to drop those as well. Everybody, you can download the slides here in the handouts tab. We've got some links available. Those are clickable when you download the slides, and if you want to follow along with us there. As always, this will be recorded. You'll receive an email with the link to the recording after the episode airs, and then we will have a blog recap as well with the episode embedded. So no worries if you get here late or if your connection is a little hazy or any sort of things pop up in the meantime and you got to go run, save the world. Please save the world. You can return to Automate That at another time. It will be here waiting
Just
for
like
you.
an automation, right? Just like a good automation.
There you go. Perfect. Okay, so moving into the meat and potatoes, if you will, of this episode. Cody, we have a second poll here. If you could just throw that one into the chat. We're curious as to what y'all think. Which of these people is the most likely to get you the most sales? A, someone who's been on your list for a while. B, someone who just signed up for your list. Or C, someone visiting your website for the first time. We'll give that a couple seconds here. Looks like the answers are coming in. It's neck and neck between A and B. Okay. Awesome. So by the end of this episode, you will be able to welcome new contacts, stay in front of your newest, most engaged contacts, and set the table for your customer journey. I fear we may have given the answer away a little bit there, but the traditional answer would be A, right? You think that the person who's been on your list for a while is more likely to buy from you. After all, they've had plenty of time to check out what you're about. They're getting nurtured from your content. And you would think that they have a good chance of being converted from a lead to a customer. But the real answer is B, because someone who's been lounging on your email list has probably already decided not to buy from you, or else they would have done it already. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't sell to them or that they're not an important part of your business, but for most businesses, most sales come from new leads. And that is what makes today's episode, the recipe that we're going to cover, so important, is that it is about welcoming new contacts. So what is the issue here? According to a study from First Impressions Email Marketing conducted by Ciceron, only 39% of brands send a welcome email, 41% of brands don't send one within the first 48 hours, and 27% of brands send 0 emails in the first 3 weeks. That's an issue. The moment after an opt-in is when your new subscriber is the most excited. That's what makes the welcome email series your best chance to introduce yourself, show people how you can help, and even generate some sales. So not taking advantage of this situation is a big issue. You need to make the most of it. Send that welcome email, introduce yourself, but don't just stop there. Make it a series. Send a few emails and have a few days in between each. Take notes on who opens what, who engages with what, and then tailor the next send to those previous actions. Your welcome email needs to do 2 things. 1, give people what they signed up for, and then 2, tell them what to expect
We
next.
think Andy Cresadina, Chief Marketing Officer of Orbit Media, said it best when he said, "There's one email that gets a higher open rate than all others, the welcome to my list email. It's no surprise the recipient is at their peak interest. They just converted into a subscriber, so they want your content and they trust your brand. Setting this auto response is a no-brainer. Open and click-through rates are often 2 times any other email you send. Think of it as just being polite. When someone starts listening, you should say hello, right? When someone asks for more, give them your best." I think of the welcome series as both smart marketing and common courtesy. And we definitely agree with that sentiment.
Yes, absolutely. Andy Cresadina, great marketing mind, also one of the nicest human beings on the planet. If you don't follow him on social, be sure to. He's dropping insight and knowledge bombs on LinkedIn and Twitter like it's his job. It actually might be his job. But that brings us to the automation recipe of the week. We're not going to play the jingle this week, but feel free to sing it along in your head if you miss it. To solve that issue of making the most of the most engaged moment that your contact might have. Recipe reveal time. Cody, can we get a little drum roll, maybe?
Drum roll, drum roll, drum roll.
And wha-bam! Here it is. This week's automation recipe of the week is the Welcome series. Cody, what are we looking at?
So we're looking at the Welcome series, as Ernie said. What it is, as we can see here, not only is it a great way to say hello to new contacts, new leads, you also want to set expectations here. You know, that's something that we've noticed a lot of. Like in the past, maybe you didn't have the time or effort to say hi to each single contact or lead. Now with marketing automation, that excuse really doesn't exist anymore for any brand or business. We need to say hello. We need to set expectations. That's probably one of the reasons those stats around leads that have been on contact lists for a while not taking as much action. Because if you're all of a sudden asking them to donate, if you're a nonprofit, or buy if you're in e-commerce, and that hasn't been something that you've seeded from the very beginning, then unfortunately, they're not going to be used to it. It's going to feel weird to them too. And you haven't prepped them properly for that. So this Welcome series is a great example of planting those seeds for a lot of different processes. And we'll look in depth later at the journey of the recipe, and we'll look at different seeds you can plant that aren't even here right now in this recipe, but are great if you're using them already. As we've talked about, this, is great for any industry. It's an evergreen recipe. The features it uses are email and open tracking. Marketing use case is you can start selling in this if you want to too, but we definitely think marketing is the main use case. And if you're new to ActiveCampaign, you can get this set up and start doing it right away. It's a starter experience level. And of course, the stage of the customer journey is reach and engage.
Yes, perfect. Thank you for that.
Of course.
What does this recipe let us do? Oh,
there
sorry,
are a couple
Cody,
people that are saying they're still having some issues connecting. Ernie, I believe you said last time, and it's unfortunately more of an art than a science. Sometimes reloading the page can result and make everything kind of connect better. So, but then again, as we also said, there is going to be a recording, but thank you so much for tuning in. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to distract. I just wanted to address the chat as well.
No, not at all.
So this
Absolutely.
recipe lets you, first and foremost, as we talked about, you're reaching out to contacts when they're engaged. So again, like we're saying, that's also the perfect moment to set expectations. Maybe it's not a huge sales CTA right there, but you're going to want to show them your featured product. If you're an e-commerce business, you're going to want to start planting the seeds that this is going to be our interaction as contact and me. If your story is super important to your small business, start telling it in that first email. There's no magical moment to start doing these things. The second someone subscribes to your list is when you should start doing any processes you care about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about it, right? They're on your website, they're on your social media page, they're interacting with your content somewhere, and what you have in front of them has resonated so much that they have signed up. They have willfully given their email address to you, which means they're super engaged. You're top of mind. That's the thing that they're doing. So you really want to reach out to them immediately and not let that window of opportunity shut at all.
Well, this recipe starts introducing segmentation. It starts segmenting and sending specific follow-ups to contacts based on their action or inaction. A lesson that this teaches great, but honestly should be applied to every communication you send. You should always be listening to what your customer does with that communication.
Yeah, absolutely. And then finally, the third point here is this recipe lets you not just respond, but start crafting a dynamic and personalized customer experience. So we'll get into it in a second with an actual visual so you can see what we mean here. But this recipe is going to track who opens that first email and who doesn't. And then based on that action, whether they opened or not, it's either going to resend that first email or it's going to send them a new email. So really what you're doing is sort of rewarding them for opening and engaging with your content and then making sure that they've opened it and engaged it if at first, you don't see that email engagement come through. This is quickly just an example of what we mean by that first point when your contacts are so engaged. So this example is actually from a website of our director of content marketing, Benjamin Elias. Cody, I believe we have a link to a blog he wrote about welcome email series. We can share that in the chat. But this is from one of his welcome emails. So obviously the sample size isn't too big here, only 121 contacts, but look at these opens and clicks, right? 85.95% opens and then 77.69% clicks. That's a 90% click to open ratio. That's insane as far as email metrics go, far beyond industry averages for opens and clicks. But really, this is what we mean by, when somebody signs up for your list, this is the kind of engagement. This is the kind of data that you can receive if you make the most of that moment. So, Cody, we're going shopping for this recipe. What are we putting in?
We're going to put in 1 list subscription trigger, 3 send email steps, a wait step where we're going to be listening. That's why we have that wait step. And then an if-else step. And yes, with that if-else step, we're going to be looking at, did they open that first email, and then sending appropriate messaging afterwards as well.
Awesome. So this is one of those recipes that's, pretty inexpensive. And by that, I mean, it doesn't really have a whole lot to it, but when you put these things together in the right order, you really create something powerful. So before you put those ingredients together, mise en place step here, what do we need to make sure we've got done before we start?
That's a great question. So first of all, you want to build out your list in ActiveCampaign and determine how and where you are going to get those new contacts. If you're already bringing them over from another platform, obviously they're opted in. Other ways here are forums, landing pages, or using an integration like Calendly or Facebook, as we point out here. These are great ways to generate new contacts. But before you turn this automation live, make sure that connection to your list is working, because you want to make sure these people get the hello immediately after. Another non-platform specific thing, but a great thing to think about before importing it, is to determine what other processes, if any, you want to start from the beginning of a contact journey. Maybe you want to add a deal so you're tracking them across the CRM. Maybe you use lead scoring. There's a lot of different processes that you might find valuable that your team heavily relies on, and this is a great way to implement them as well.
Perfect. So moving along, here is a image of the recipe as a whole, the template that we will provide you with. So Cody, what are we looking at here?
So as we talked about, I'll drive us through the recipe real quick. The very first thing we have is that list subscription trigger. Now, if you have different lists, you can definitely just build out different triggers if they all are going to have the same welcome funnel. But a lot of people use a master list that just has all active contacts on it. And that's kind of usually the first list someone will get subscribed to. So we use that in our example. Then immediately we send that welcome email. We're either telling our story, we're showing that information right there. It's our first point of contact. Then we wait a week. Now, obviously waiting a week without other messaging is rather long. In our idea, we're also running probably like an actual nurture drip at the same time with someone separately in another automation, and we're just focusing on the welcome email here. But feel free to actually go ahead, build more wait steps and wait days. You can build out that drip directly right here. There's no reason, if you want to have it in this automation, you can build it. Again, the beautiful thing about automation recipes, once they're in your account, they are yours to customize to your heart's content. But let's keep going. So after that wait step of the week, we're going to say, hey, did they open that first welcome email? If they did, we're going to say, great. We're going to send them an email that says, here's the next steps. Again, we're going to start, it's not necessarily a list of actual instructions. Unless you're a software company telling people how to access an account, then I guess it would be. But, what we really want to do is start preparing them. Hey, thanks, hey, great. You know this. We know that you know this. Here's the next bit of information. If they don't open it, instead of just resending that welcome email, we're going to massage it a little. Maybe it's a different subject line. Maybe the content is shortened, streamlined, and also bundled with that next steps, because you still want them getting that information, but you still want to make sure that they are, if they open it, getting the information from that welcome email as well. So this is just kind of showing you just a very early example of some segmentation based on the engagement of one campaign, and then responding appropriately, still providing that great information, but making sure they get all the information they need in this recipe.
Yeah, absolutely. And one point I wanted to call out here was at that start trigger point, right? We have this set to subscribes to master list, which means any contact that is within your ActiveCampaign profile, any contact that you have the information of the email address for. However, you could use this automation recipe in a variety of different ways, right? If you have several different streams of content or programs or different, processes that you might have email content for, you can feel free to use this as a welcome series to whatever that process might be. As Cody mentioned, it could be a software trial. It could be somebody interested or signing up for a course that you might be offering. It could be any number of things. So anytime that you have a list that somebody new signs up for, you want to welcome them to that list, welcome them to that new process. You could tweak this automation recipe and make it work for you.
Don't think of it just as welcome to new people. It definitely is that, and that's the use case we're highlighting today. But it's a welcome to any process, as Ernie said, that your business is doing. And Ernie, you gave great examples. I could list 3 more, but we'll go with yours. They're great.
I think we might have some more examples coming up, actually. Oh, here they
So
are.
where we normally
Wow.
do related recipes, we wanted to showcase that we actually have industry-specific welcome series in our marketplace. Here's just a few. We definitely have others. We have over 500 recipes in our marketplace to help you get started that are just plug and play, put them into your account, and go ahead. So for the industry-specific ones, this is where we kind of showcase and have started building in those processes. For the author-blogger industry, for instance, it's not just a welcome series. It actually encourages you to use a form or somehow ask a question that you can capture custom field information on how familiar they are with your oeuvre, your body of work as an author. So thank you, Ernie. And then it recommends a book. If they're brand new, send your bestseller. If they feel like they've read everything from you, either suggest other writers similar. That'll create a great experience, or your lesser known works. For the travel industry, we actually take this concept too, and we tweak it, as Ernie said, for a different process. It's not welcome to my list. We actually use a custom date field for trip start date and the information of where they're going to create an automation that you're saying, hey, have a great trip tomorrow. And when they land, you say, hey, we hope you've gotten there safe. Here's information about the destination. You're providing that customer experience that, I would love that if I went on a trip to land. The people I booked through actually have information for me about where I'm at. There are resources. If I run into any issues, the support is clearly marked right there. That's where we want to start getting these ideas of starting a process from.
To that point, you land on the ground, the stewardess comes over the intercom and says, feel free to turn your devices off of airplane mode. You turn them off of airplane mode. Instead of hurrying up and waiting in that line, that corridor where everyone's trying to get out, you got an email to read with all of the new amazing things that you can do in your destination. That's a customer experience that I would
exactly.
like to have.
And then, of course, last is the software industry, where a lot of companies, including ActiveCampaign, offers a free trial of the software so you can try before you buy. And that is a form of a welcome series. It is, hi, you guys are considering using our platform. We want to make sure that it's not just, hey, thanks, we hope to see you again in like 2 weeks and you've learned the platform. It's, hey, have you tried this? Have you done this? One of the interesting things is we see some users use a goal so that if someone does convert, they take them out and give that information to them somewhere else. But some people view that as like, no, even if they convert, I still need them to get that great information. So they'll keep them in that flow still. So, that's where even with a very specific process, different users have found different needs.
Yeah, and as Cody said here, these are 3 industry-specific recipes. We have even more in the marketplace, but really what we want you to start doing is take a look at your business. What is that welcome process look like? What is that new journey, that new segment of the journey within, the path from lead to customer look like for you? And then you can kind of create even a business-specific welcome series for whatever those processes might be. The possibilities are really endless here. Let's get to some of these questions.
I want to address earlier. One of our watchers, Sue, asked, "How do I get recordings from the previous recipes?" If I assume maybe it's if I'm new to the series, if I've come in after the first episode is aired and things. I know we have a blog recap that you can find on our landing page that also houses those videos. But Ernie, is there how does Demio handle sending those people information if they've signed up midway through? Do we know?
Yeah, so you should receive the recording for all episodes after the point that you had signed up for via Demio. So those emails, be sure to check your spam and promotions tab. They do sometimes get routed there. We would love to be in the inbox as much as everyone else, but everybody's got to deal with those issues every once in a while. But if you wanted to watch the previous episodes, you could head back to the Automate That landing page where you registered to attend the series, and we have links out to previous episodes, the blog recap, and the videos are embedded in those blogs. So feel free to take a look at those as well.
Next question I'm seeing is, how can I hire an ActiveCampaign virtual assistant? And there's a couple of different answers to this. We definitely have one-on-one calls with our success agents that you can sign up for via Ernie. I don't know if you happen to have that link handy. If not, I can grab that in just a second. You work with our success team, but if you're looking to hire someone who's more of a virtual assistant that you can discuss specific things with and hire, then we also have the certified consultants. These are people that really know ActiveCampaign in their specialty areas. We have an entire different marketplace listing those people. And I'll also make sure we get a link to that certified consultants that we drop in just a second as well.
Ooh, I got that one for you, Cody. I'm fast and furious in the search bar right now. There we go. Okay, what else do we have? Is there a way to get one-on-one business specifics reviews? Rich, that's a great question. You could probably follow that support one-on-one link there, and our success team would be able to help you out with whatever you're looking for. And then one option also that Cody, we could talk about for the virtual assistant is on the ActiveCampaign Enterprise plan. One of the features of that is that you actually get a dedicated account rep that is your single point of contact for your account. So that's another route that you could choose if you're interested in some of the more powerful features there.
And two questions that I'm going to combine kind of real quick. One is how to open the marketplace. There seems to be an issue with the link right now. You can Google also ActiveCampaign Marketplace, go via that way. It should go in. The link should work. I'm not sure exactly what's happening. So my apologies.
Oh, Tommy, thank you for dropping that in there.
All right. So sorry about that. But then also it's where are the recipes found? And I did want to highlight that not only can you find them externally on the ActiveCampaign Marketplace, as we've linked in, you can also find them if you have an ActiveCampaign account. All of the ones that ActiveCampaign has authored are already in your account too. If you go to new automation, a modal will open in your account. It'll say start from scratch at the beginning, and then the list of all of our recipes are right there. You can search by industry on the left side, or if you know a specific one, there's a search box to use there. But that is another way to also find them. They're already in your account as well, if they are the ones we have authored. We also have externally created recipes that are also great that live in the marketplace.
Perfect. Looks like Judith has a question here. Is it best to create an automation series that I can then add and adapt to different forms? I just created an automation from the link in the form, but it's now not a template, and it might be useful for other freebies. Best is hard to say, but it's certainly something that you could do. If you find that you have an automation flow with the wait steps, the amount of emails that you found that works for you, that you like, that you're comfortable with, you could absolutely make a copy of that automation, as well as just change the start trigger to whatever that form is, and then kind of adapt it or tweak it slightly based on whatever the new process is. Cody, do you have anything to add there?
I would say it's not uncommon. We'll see that someone takes a holiday like series for a specific holiday, and they'll just convert that in between the next holiday to something else with different messaging. That's totally fine. You just want to make sure you're very thorough, make sure any old messaging gets updated. You definitely don't want to send someone something for the wrong holiday. But yeah, we see that all the time, that someone will create an automation and then they just add to and adapt it for different forms, different if else's, and things like that. That's absolutely fine. I personally also always, recommend, hey, they're kind of like Christmas lights. I like to have a lot of different but specific automations that might be firing at the same time as others, just so that way I know how they're mapped together, how they work, and what someone could potentially go down that path. But either is absolutely fine. And then Katie said, any hot tips on finding the slides for previous sessions? We actually have those slides right here, so I'm going to drop them real quick into the handout section, Katie, so you should be able to get them there.
Nice. Also, for future reference, with the slides, as I mentioned, we do a blog recap with the video embedded in that blog for each episode. We also include a link to download the PDF version of the slides in that blog as well. So you'll find everything that you need there from a recording and a handouts perspective.
Awesome.
Great question from Connie. How do you suggest to keep the overview of automations? I notice I sometimes forget what's going on, or to keep the overview. Cody, do you have any suggestions there?
Yeah, there's actually the automation map in your account. It's a great, powerful tool that shows all your automations, and it literally maps out, if you select one, like, hey, these automations can lead into it, and these automations can start from it. So you can kind of see and get an overview right there. Another great tip, because sometimes you do want to not spend all day looking in those things. I use labels a lot for if I'm creating an automation recipe that all belong to a same process. So I'll just label them as that. So that way I can just real quick pull up the label. Everything that touches that process pulls up,
Yes, and then one thing that I would add here, I don't know about everyone that's attending, but I'm a big pen and paper guy. And one thing that we advocate pretty strongly at ActiveCampaign is process before software. So one thing that you could do is just take a look at, all the processes that you envision creating automations for, write those down, and then sort of just check them off the list as you create them. If you want something in the platform, as Cody mentioned, the automations map is a great tool. But again, building modular, building small, and really thinking about and writing down what your desired process is before getting into the platform and building that out can be a great way to keep everything tight and organized. Yeah. All right.
And then I see I think the last question we got here is, I frequently copy an automation and then I copy and edit the emails within it. So I end up with a long list of emails that go with these. What is the best practices for copying an automation that has similar emails? That's a great question. Give me a second to think about the best way. I would say probably when you are copying those emails, one of the best handy tools, if you end up deleting an old email, let's say you create an automation recipe, and so it creates a copy of brand new, the same emails, and then you go through and change them. And I may not be addressing the exact situation, so my apologies if not. But in the top right of that automation, there will be a View Emails button. That lists all emails, even those that are no longer active in the automation but did exist, because sometimes people will delete an email action and they want to be like, oh no, I didn't mean to delete that. So we do save those for you. But you can go in, click a little caret to the right of that email name, and then you can make sure that you delete that email, and then you'll only have that one record in that one automation of that email. We also, I like to say, because that message name is really, nobody sees it but you, and it's very for internal and organizational purposes. If it's just that you have a lot of emails with the same name, I'll put a dash, and I'll even write the automation it's directly in to make sure that if I'm running a condition, I'm grabbing the correct email version of it.
Awesome. All right. Well, that looks like that'll about do it for this episode of Automate That. Again, thank you all very much for your time today. We appreciate it. To the 73% of us in North or South America, enjoy your afternoon. To Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, which looks like 25% of us, good evening. And then to the one soldier in APAC, good morning. How's the future looking? I hope it's bright. But yeah, that'll do it for episode 3. Join us again next week, same time, same place. I'm
Cody.
Hi, thank you for watching. If you are enjoying Growth Decoded, you can find a link in the description to sign up and join the Grow team. You'll get exclusive content and opportunities that have to do with the show. You can also hit the subscribe button for ActiveCampaign's YouTube channel somewhere down here, and you will never miss an update from us.